I believe a woman is both a biological woman and or a transgender woman that identifies as a woman. And I would like to comment on what you said about God made men and women. I think I saw a TikTok or, some quotes on TikToks a couple times where it said God created transgenderism for the same reason that he created grapes, but not.
For example, the lady over here is screaming misogyny, yet she doesn't even know the definition.
If you require your girl to be a virgin to be with her, yes, unfortunately, in my eyes, you're a weirdo. If you disagree, that's totally okay.
This is why I know you don't know what you're talking about. So it's basically the reason, the way the law is written, it punishes men for doing the right.
But hold on. Now, this is where we're going to really go off the rails, because I'm sorry. Having sex does not mean you have to have a baby. If a baby happens, it's because a woman wanted to bring one into the world. That is 100% on women.
If your wife can spend more than you make, like, you need to make more money.
Women are getting very, very, very picky. Very picky. It's like, you got to make six figures. You got to have the nice car. You got to have the nice apartment that you keep really nice. You got to be a protector. You've also got to let me somehow run the house and be the boss of the house when it comes to big decisions. I mean, listen, you got to be really good looking. You got to be in shape. And what I always say is, when you make these demands, always look in the mirror and self-reflect. What are you bringing to the table? What are you willing to do? Do a proper, realistic self-assessment, because otherwise you're only hurting yourself. You're going to say, all these guys aren't good enough for me. I'm not even going to give them the second look. And maybe there are some really good guys out there that maybe they're not at 10, but maybe you're not at 10.
Again, what they're doing is just pure and utter deflection, because they don't want to be responsible for what they contribute to men. They don't want to be responsible for that. So they go down to the low-level, surface-level tactic of shaming them based off of men's sexual desires. Stop shaming men for being attracted to women in the way that we...
The Me Too movement is so strong and so powerful for the people that need it, but it shouldn't ruin the maturity that we should have within intimacy and relationship.
System malfunction.
What's up, YouTube? Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. For the last 10 years, from my vantage point, there has been this extremely contentious debate between men and women. They're calling it gender wars. I remember when I was introduced to the discussion after going through something personal in my own life where there was a breakup from an extremely long relationship. Somehow, a video popped up on my phone in my YouTube feed, and I remember it vividly. It was a content creator that I'm pretty fond of by the name of Sandman. But before I get into it, I'm still asking for a virtual Christmas present from everybody. So if you can just subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and if you find interest in what we're talking about here on Download Malfunction, please share it out to someone you know may also find interest. And I deeply appreciate you and thank you for that. Now, I was saying that the first person that I came across in the red pill space was Sandman. And I remember being extremely intrigued by how he delivered the content. Like, he was very witty, extremely intelligent. He made you lean in to what he was saying. So you really, just very interesting by the way he did it. And that very first video that I came across from Sandman was unbelievably funny and interesting. I don't remember the exact title, but it was something along the lines of the cock carousel. And he was explaining how much of the pogo stick that women jump on in their late teens and 20s and the effects of that. So it was really, really cool. I urge you to look it up. Definitely will find some interest in that, and it's hilarious at the same time, while I think being very true.
Hi everyone, Sandman here. Yesterday I got a message on YouTube from Mr. Guitarman187, and he said that if I wanted to get the leg up on other video producers, that I should produce a video on the cock carousel. So I decided that today would be the day that I would take a shot at it. The reasons why women ride the cock carousel are varied. The more sexual partners they have in their life, the more notches they gain on their belt, because society is increasingly telling women to measure themselves against men's standards. Another reason is that 30 or 40 years ago, it was expected for women to be married and having children by the time they were in their early to mid-20s. Yet society is telling women to build their careers, get an education, and date in their 20s instead of settling down and having a family. Women's biological drive is to want to have sex in their 20s. This is the most sex-filled decade in their lives for most women, at least the ones I've been with and the ones I've talked to about it. Women after 35 still want sex, but are usually seeking it out if they aren't getting it on a regular basis from a regular partner. Essentially, you can't blame women for wanting sex, but you can blame them for jumping around from one sexual partner to the next. And I blame the media and pop culture where women are told to jump from one guy to the next, and it's socially acceptable for them to do so. Yet many of the women riding the cock carousel are either ignorant or unaware of the dangers that are found in the bedroom. They don't understand that STDs like HPV and herpes can be spread even while wearing condoms, and that the more sex they have, the higher their risk for getting cancer or never being able to produce children.
And I'll tell you what, it resonated with me and how I understood this dichotomy between men and women, or what is commonly known as the gender wars today. So I ended up binge watching Sandman's content. I mean, day in and day out until Rollo Tomasse showed up in my feed.
And you didn't. You never thought about it. You think your perseverance is finally, your ship has come in, you've finally hit pay dirt. I did the right thing. I stuck to my guns and now she really finds me attractive. No, it's because she's 29 to 31 years old and her necessities have changed from the time she was like 18 till she was about 28 years old. That's the period that in my second book, Preventive Medicine, I have a timeline in there of what men can expect from women at various phases of maturity for women. And right around 29 to 31 years old, which, by the way, is the prime demographic for first marriage in the United States. Men are about 29, women about 28, somewhere around there. And that's when women go, oh shit, the lights are coming on at the club and I better find a guy to leave the party with. And they're hoping they're going to find a guy who at least has some prospect or is a good bet for them, because at that stage, they are becoming to realize or acknowledge that they can't compete in the sexual marketplace like they did when they were 23 years old. So when we talk about the wall in the manosphere, for example, the wall doesn't start here. The wall starts here for women. It's, can I compete with?
And then it was Coach Greg Adams.
What's going on, everybody? It is Coach Greg Adams back in here with another YouTube live stream. Shout out to the Coach Gang.
And then it was Entrepreneurs with Cars.
All right, what's up,
And then it was Alpha Male Strategies.
What's up, fellas?
Not necessarily in that same order, but it seems like somewhere around the same time, all of these different content creators start showing up in my feed. And I guess the algorithm works by, what you tend to like and watch more of, they tend to just push more of that data or content in your face. And I quickly realized that the rhetoric from these men were all aligned. They all agreed and pretty much understood that the nature of relationships between men and women was one that operated on two different wavelengths. But also, from my vantage point, what you got to understand about all these guys is these guys are all veterans. They had all been either married and divorced. They were mature men who have been around the block a few times. They scraped their knees, they've gotten back up, and then they just basically utilized the YouTube platform to share their experiences out to young men and try and prevent them from going down the same path. And so they were just holding up a warning sign as it relates to relationships. There's one guy that I did forget to mention, and he is actually one of my favorite guys. His name is MTR. He's Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews. He's a solo channel. Solid job, man. The guy's very articulate, intelligent. He had a pretty good relationship with KS. Really good guy. And if it's between, MTR and Fresh and Fit, they are both at a close first place, but the medal has to go to MTR as a solo creator who makes it look like he has about 15 people on his team.
What are you doing?
But sometimes being a single mom is hard because you don't have anybody else to rely on except for yourself. And so my hot water heater went out, and I now have to miss my youngest son's flag football game, which I only get to go to every other week because I work on the weekends that I don't have them.
This video right here is so damn crazy, but I think further demonstrates the delusion or the mindset that some of these married women get into when they think that the grass is greener on the other side after they hit the damn wall. Before we go over her sweet, delicious tears of regret, guys, understand this. Use videos like this as a case study of if you come across women like this, understand what they're saying and run for the hills, or at least don't marry.
So anyways, so during this time of my descent into this abyss of on YouTube being the gender wars, many of these topics were recognizable to me, and I found some synergy in everything that these gentlemen were sharing. Then later, the conversation started popping up in these sort of group discussion podcasts like Fresh and Fit, the Lapeef Network, the Whatever podcast, which is fairly new, even Pearly Things. I know a lot of people don't like her. They say she's just basically cutting and pasting, but I think she does a good job in bringing the conversation to the forefront. And I really like when she cooked B. Taylor, just toasted her. I like all of these guys. I don't have any dislike or gripe with none of these podcasts today, nor the ones that introduced me into what is known as this red pill. And like I said earlier, I like all of these. I like the group format because they bring a real live Q&A with the very women and men and allow them to sort of hash it out and share or explain their perspectives on relationships, while at the same time, they're highlighting the reality of men while helping women realize the difficulties that men face in just simple interactions with women, let alone making the decision to go into a contract of marriage. But after listening to all these commentators and podcasts and content creators give their perspectives on how men see the world and how women see the world and what each other want and trying to figure out what that is, I've come to realize something, and it's very simple just by listening to this, and that is that men and women are speaking two different languages. They just don't understand each other. It's like when you have a partner that should be pulling with you, but when you pull, they push, and vice versa. There's no progress in that. When I hear these discussions, it's almost like the processing of the information is just not syncing up on the other end. There's a download malfunction somewhere. But again, from my perspective as a male, whenever I see these ideas posed in these group settings and there's women on the other end, whether it's what do you bring to the table or what is your body count? I find this stuff really, really funny, but true. I want to know. Every time these questions are asked, I'm on the edge of my seat listening for the answer to come out of these people's mouths, because 50% of it I know is a lie, but I'm curious to hear exactly how they're going to respond to it. Nevertheless, the topics that are brought up seem pretty simple, and you would think that it would be easy for an individual to provide an answer to the topics. But what I also see is that when these topics are brought up, oftentimes women automatically jump on the defensive side.
Worry you like when your children are older that they'll see your naked body on the internet?
You know, it actually doesn't.
No?
So why are you
thinking?
thinking?
No, like Kim Kardashian has her body on the internet and like stuff like that. It's like, it's just like, and honestly, like we've all probably, have y'all had like your nudes exposed like before, like maybe once in high school or whatever? Like,
No.
Really?
No.
First
of all, I call everyone bro. I have a show here and I call everyone bro. So that's why she's angry. You're angry because I called you bro. I called the auntie bro and she's right next to me.
I don't know if you've thought about this though. How can the patriarchy be oppressive to women when it was a man who invented
You think men are better than women off of me stating biological facts.
Next topic.
But I feel like no, we don't need to move the topic. How can you extrapolate that from what I just said?
Next topic.
No. We're not going to no next topic. How did you come to that conclusion?
Next topic.
How did you come to that conclusion?
Next topic.
Whose show do you think you are on?
My show.
They seems like they lose all reason. They're not willing to listen to anything. They just can't wait until the person that is talking takes a deep breath to give them just a small window so that they can say whatever it is that they've been holding on to. And I also find it funny because a lot of the things that are presented, whatever they're talking about, it could be like as simple as what is 2 + 2? The honest and quick answer is it's 4. But you watch some of these people try and answer these simple questions and it's like, yeah, 2 + 2 is 4, but there's a potential for it to be 4.5 if you did this, and depending on the day of the week, if the moon, you're like, man, come on, stop this, man, stop it.
Again.
That was a yes or no question. I didn't
No.
ask you all that shit. Well, all that shit you about to say, I didn't ask you all that shit.
First
I asked
off,
you a yes or no question.
For the relationship to last, the man has to be happy. Because when a man's happy, the woman will be happy by default. Because if a guy is achieving success, he's making money, he's get in the gym, he's taking care of himself, etc., the woman benefits from that. He's going to be more fond and attached to her because she was with him while he was building. But when women get better and they make more money, become more successful, they look for better suitors. That's why the man has to be in a leveraged position of power all the time with the woman. Can never be the other way around. When the woman holds all the chips, she's going to make your life miserable.
So
when the man holds all the chips, he's going to grow to love that woman even more.
So do you disagree with a man being like a house husband?
Well, let me ask you a better question. Would you take a man seriously that wanted to be a house husband? There you go.
As most of you guys know, I worked in the service industry for a number of years, almost a couple decades, for one of the best chefs in the world. And I think the teams that we were surrounded by were just A+. I mean, these people were creme de la creme. But the women I worked with in these spaces were just unreal. Beautiful girls. There was probably only one or two busted ones out of the almost 20 years that I spent in the service industry. The point I'm trying to make is that I have had these conversations with women, and the frustration for me has always been extremely high because you're trying to get to the bottom of something that is extremely basic, right? It shouldn't take all of this obfuscating and ducking and dodging and doing the two-step just to answer a simple question. Because in these same spaces, as well as in my professional career, I noticed that whenever I'm having a conversation with men, like we can get through a conversation with no problem, right? You ask a question, here's the answer, and it seems like it's pretty understood between the men. But whenever a woman is thrown in the mix, or even I've noticed that when men are having a conversation and there's a woman in the space, you got to be extremely careful with what you say. You almost got to tiptoe around that conversation that you would normally just be straightforward with if a woman wasn't in the space. I think in professional environments where you have women on teams, I think the conversation has gotten even more critical, unsafe for men, because for centuries in the workspace, men can just get together, shoot the shit, and get on with the day. But now if you say something that's slightly off and not politically correct, then you can find yourself sitting down with HR and having your livelihood ripped away from you. So if you're looking to be canceled, then strike up a conversation with some female. And the smart people know that I'm not talking about every female. I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. I think you got to be very cautious because a man's natural way of speaking and talking in today's world is considered hyper masculine or toxic masculinity. I believe that puts men in a very vulnerable situation. And ultimately, they sort of smother themselves out because they just can't be natural and free flowing, especially if you find yourself in a group and there's women there, because you don't know what you might say that you would normally consider not a problem that's going to offend someone. And that one offense, you will be gone. You will be canceled in today. A lot of companies are big on the Me Too and making sure that everybody gets a trophy. I recommend that if you have to be around women in the workplace, just minimize the conversation. Just provide enough information to be supportive and engaging, but I really wouldn't get into deep political issues or personal issues because you are at a disadvantage as a man. A woman is okay to be as free and natural and, bark out sexual innuendos, but if a man did any of that, it's looked at completely different. Basically, what I'm saying is that men and women are speaking two different languages.
System malfunction.